Alright, I think we are good to go. Let me know if you can hear me or if you can't hear me. Hi, everybody. I'm Robert. I'm your host tonight. We're not doing a cook along live, we're doing some flying. We're going to be doing some general aviation in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. Pretty cool game. There's a couple of things that need work before it can be used as like what I would consider a primary flight simulator. But all in all, it's pretty good. Today we're going to be flying with a new peripheral here. And we've got the Honeycomb Bravo Throttle Quadrant. You'll notice that I'm comfortable in my pajamas. This is after work. I'm just going to be chilling tonight, doing a little bit of flying. And we're going to be putting this guy through his paces using Microsoft Flight Simulator as kind of our test bed, if you will. So let me know if you can hear me okay. Let me know if the audio is not the greatest or if it gets a little loud in the game or whatever. So Honeycomb Flight Quadrant, the Bravo Throttle Quadrant, is really, really cool. It's got a flap lever on the far right-hand side. It's got a little adjustment here so you can adjust how tight these guys are, how easily they move. You'll notice that I've got 3 in here for like a single engine complex aircraft. You've also got 3 more areas where you can actually swap these guys out. So let me actually show you this real quick. So these all pop right off, and you got some covers that can actually go and fit right over these spots to kind of close them out if you're not using them. For example, if I'm using, like right now I'm just going to be flying a Cessna 182 or 172. I might keep the mixture knob there, but I might remove the prop pitch because we don't actually have to control that in this particular aircraft. I can then just kind of cover that up and not have to worry about it. Now I've got my mixture, I've got my throttle, and the prop is not a factor, essentially. It's also got a really cool trim wheel here. It's actually not analog. I know a lot of people, when I first saw this, I thought it was an analog controller, or an analog, what you call it, axis. It actually isn't. This is, there's almost like it's almost like it's a magnetic sensor where as you turn it, it'll put small inputs every, I don't know, millimeter that it moves or so. And so the cool thing about that is an axis always has an endpoint. There's always a high end of the axis and there's always a low end to the axis, like with the throttle or like with the mixture here. With this bad boy here, since it's just a single input either in the positive or negative direction, it can spin forever. So you can actually use this very similarly to a real world trim control. I know those won't spin forever. There is an upper bound and a lower bound, but for an axis, the upper bound would be not even a full revolution. Same thing with the lower bound. You'd be going about, I don't know, 180 degrees maybe, maybe up to like 270 or something like that, but then you'd hit a hard stop. With this being a incremental button press, it actually gives you a lot more flexibility and gives you a lot more fine control in the actual aircraft. We do also have gear levers over here, and supposedly the lights on this bad boy are supposed to work, and we've got actually a master, like a annunciator panel here that has all the error messages that could possibly pop up in a plane. These lights should be turned on at some point when it's enabled in the sim. So they're not quite enabled yet, but that's fine. The throttle quadrant works great on its own. We've also got a bunch of multifunction switches here that you can use to do whatever you want in the plane. I don't have anything bound except for pitot heat because the Alpha Flight Yoke already has alternator switches and all the light switches down here. So I don't need to bind these to that. But if you have like a joystick and just grab the throttle, you could bind these to your battery, your avionics, beacon, landing lights, all of those things. We've also got a really cool integrated autopilot setup here with, again, an incremental knob that just keeps spinning. So there's no high-end boundary to this, and there's no low-end boundary to this. So you can use it for, in an autopilot, say altitude adjustment, where you're going to say, I want to go up by 200 feet a minute. Oh, 3, 4, 500, 600, 700, up to 1,000, whatever, as far as you want to go. And then the same in the other direction. It's also got the buttons here for your primary navigation mode, and then a switch here, a dial, which I assume is for, I think this and these do the same thing. One is more for like a charter plane or like a higher end jet or something like that, and these are more for like a general aviation setup. all in all, I've played with it a little bit. It's awesome. We're going to do a little bit more playing with it today. I've got Flight Simulator 2020 set up for a flight from Livermore, which is my home airport here in California, Livermore, California. We're just going to go fly around. If you want, I can also do some landing challenges. Those are always fun. Always difficult. The wind in this game, when it's kicking you around, kicks you around quite a bit. It's really, really hard to control the planes. But, you know, we can give it a shot. But without further ado, let's go ahead and pop in. And we'll go ahead and get started. So what I do want to show here, I'm going to pop myself in real quick. When you're looking around in Flight Simulator 2020, obviously you got your yoke in the way, kind of in the middle of your screen. You can click on it to make it go away. Now, the yoke is set up and the throttle is set up right now so that I can control the entire startup process right from here. So this is really, really neat. Essentially, I know that I'm going to be turning my battery on first. So I'm going to get that clicked over. So you saw that I used the switch over here. I'm going to get my beacon on. If you take a look down here, we've got our beacon switch. That flips up as well. And now I'm basically going to go full mixture. Give it a little bit of throttle. I'll just do like that much. And then we've got our little simulation key over here on the right. We'll just go ahead and turn that on. And I'm actually going to take a look so I can see the prop. And we'll say clear prop out the window, which nobody's here to hear, but in the real world that's what you would do, and then we'll just go ahead and kick it on. And we'll kick it back to both instead of start. And what did I not do here? That is interesting. That should be all you got to do to start playing, gentlemen. Fuel pump on, we're good. Interesting. Well, let's give it another couple of seconds. That's very, very strange. Kick you on. We've got our mixture on full. We've got our throttle in. On and to both. And it is not starting. Alright, keyboard command fixed it. For some reason, it didn't want to actually take. I've heard that's a bug, but I thought they fixed it. So kind of interesting that that's still going on. Anyway, we'll pull our throttle up to about 1,000 RPM. We'll get our avionics on as well. And then we'll just go ahead and get our taxi light on and our nav lights on. And then we'll just look out the window. And we'll start going. All right. Out of my way, Mr. Tug Boy. Just move around him here. And here we go. So for taxiing on the ground, we'll pull back our mixture a little bit. It's not modeled very well in the game, but your exhaust gas temperature will start climbing. And I guess we haven't been warming the engine up, so it might not quite as quickly as I expect it to, but that's usually how you modify your mixture to make sure that you're not running a little too rich on the ground. So on Livermore, we are going to be taxiing on, I think this is Juliet. What are we on? Yeah, Juliet to Bravo, and then Bravo to runway 25, right? Got my iPad set up here with ForeFlight on it, so we can practice a little bit. And just let me know what you guys want to see. Go ahead and put it in the chat. I can turn off the picture-in-picture if you're not interested in seeing that. I can make it bigger. And here we go. Coming up to runway 25 at Livermore. At this point, we would say Livermore Tower, Cessna 733 Bravo Echo is holding short.
Runway 25 right.
Holding short 25 right, ready for departure to the west. Alright, Cessna, you are clear for takeoff. Straight out departure approved. Cool. So let's go ahead and we'll go full mixture. We'll get our strobes on, landing lights on.
Runway 25 right. 5,200 feet remaining.
Let ForeFlight tell us a little bit about where we are. We'll do a very poor job of lining up on centerline. Here we go. Full throttle. A little bit of left rudder to maintain centerline. And our airspeed is alive. Oops. 55, we'll rotate and up into the air. Why am I getting an ATIS? Oh, it's probably for a different... There we go. Go away. So, throttle works great. Throttle quadrant works great. I'm pulling back a little bit on the stick. We'll climb at about 85 knots. I'm sorry, 75 knots. Get our climb in, and we'll just start putting in some trim. Nose up trim. Works very well, very similar to how it would in real life. Take a look at our right wing, our left wing, and our right wing, and just make sure we're kind of staying lined up. And we're trimmed. I'm not putting in any back pressure. I'm just holding a little bit of left aileron so that we don't start drifting to the right. A little bit too much on that trim, but otherwise we're looking good. Take a look at our nose, and we're going to follow the highway right over here, over that little ridge, and head over towards San Francisco. And we're trimmed. Like, it took me 30 seconds or less to trim using the Bravo Quadrant. This thing is really nice. Anything you guys want to see with this? Anything you want me to demo? If not, we're just going to do a quick joyride. And again, I've got ForeFlight up here on my iPad. You can set this to follow us. You can set this up with Flight Simulator 2020. I've got another video on my channel. Highly recommend you go and check that one out as well if you're interested in doing anything with ForeFlight. Now, VR is coming at the end of the month, right around the 22nd, I think, is when they said they're going to release it. Really, really nice. Looking forward to that. But for now, this works fairly well. So, again, this is a really, really high quality throttle quadrant. Works great, very quick and easy to set up. Working with the sim trim thing works excellently. I don't usually use autopilot all that much unless I'm doing IFR practice. But the axes work great. Like I said, you've got these covers here for the various throttle inputs. And it's a modular system, so again, you can pop this bad boy off and go ahead and put in your mixture if you wanted to, or I'm sorry, your prop RPM. Axis, I don't have one here in a 172, but if I was flying a 182, I could always map it. And it comes with a set of general aviation things for a twin-engine aircraft. So it's got two throttles. One of them actually has a go-around button on it, and it's labeled as well. Go-around button on it, and it's labeled as well. And then, of course, you've got a secondary mixture and a secondary prop pitch. It also comes with a setup if you like to fly airliners. So if you're more into commercial jets, it's got a whole commercial setup here with everything, including speed brake for a 2-engine, flap knob that can go over here, so you can set the incremental flaps on this last axis. And then it's also got the thrust reversers if you're flying like a Boeing. and they do work. They are functional. So, pretty cool setup. I'm less of a commercial inclined pilot. I'm more into general aviation. Alright, we're passing 3,000. We'll level off at 3,500. And we're going to tilt a little bit to the left to go around these clouds because we're not flying IFR today. We're just putting in gentle control inputs. And here we go, about 100 feet from our intended altitude. We'll start pushing forward a little bit. And we'll let the plane pick up some speed. We'll go ahead and start trimming our nose down a little bit as well. And then as the plane picks up speed, you'll just have to keep trimming and or holding a little bit of pressure here on your yoke. Hey Steve, how's it going, man? We'll maintain just about 3,500, and then we'll start actually pulling back our throttle to keep our speed about 110. And we'll turn back to the left a little bit. We'll head over the San Francisco Bay. Now, one of the things I like to do when I have friends, if I'm flying around with friends, is a bay tour, and this is pretty much exactly what it looks like. They've definitely nailed that in this simulator. And by this point, we would have switched to NorCal approach and asked them for a bay tour, and using the 30 numbers at Oakland as a transition point. And then what they'll do is they'll vector us. Well, they won't vector us. They'll just say, "Hey, cool, go towards Oakland Coliseum and maintain 2,000 or below," is usually what they'll say. But we're not working with NorCal today, so our airspaces are not important. And what I'm going to do is just pull back the throttle just a bit. We will start a little bit of a descent here. And we'll switch to an external camera and take a look at everything from the outside. External. A little bit louder out here. Turn down the game volume. Mount Diablo over there in between the clouds. And then we've got Oakland International Airport right there. San Francisco International is across the bay right there. We'll pop back into our cockpit view and we'll just continue our tour. So Oakland Coliseum is right around here. Generally they'll have you fly over that and then head over the 30 numbers. We can also see a couple of planes flying around. I'm not sure if that's live traffic or... Doesn't look like it. Looks like there's less planes than that in the area. Well, maybe. As I zoomed out on ForeFlight, I got a lot more traffic that just popped in. That's all good. We'll switch over to ForeFlight. Take a look. Got my aunt giving me a call. Sorry, I'm streaming. I hope it's nothing important. If it is, I'm sure she'll text. And we're going to descend down to about 2,000 feet. Get under these clouds. And I'll get rid of this window here. Don't need the camera view. Well, I guess I could pop it out and then just manage that out of the game. That works too. Take a look at our left window again. This is all Castro Valley, Fremont, and Hayward. Actually, I guess Fremont is a little bit more south of this. Out in front of us, we've got Oakland, of course, is this whole area in here. Richmond is over a little bit north, and we can kind of start seeing the Bay Bridge and Yerba Buena Island out there, the Golden Gate over here, and Alcatraz is out in the bay. That's a great idea, Steve, actually. If you don't already have a joystick, and I think that they already have, oh, I can't remember the name of the joystick manufacturer. I think one of them makes a P51 setup for a virtual home cockpit. So you may want to give that a look as well if you're interested in a more true-to-life setup. Obviously, this is more for a general aviation aircraft. The P-38, I don't remember if it has a yoke, but I'm pretty sure it has a joystick. The Throttle Quadrant is awesome, though. Like, I would use a joystick and this. I think you would have a blast. And all of these axes are independently assignable. So you could actually put this on the left-hand side and have all of your throttle controls over here with the joystick in the center. So if you were flying a P-38, P-51, or any of those older warbirds, you could definitely set it up for that kind of a configuration. So we'll just reduce our throttle just a little bit more. And get closer to 2,000. We've got the Oakland Coliseum up here ahead of us. And we got a plane up there in the upper left. I'm looking on ForeFlight. He is there, but he's going a little bit further to the west, so I'm not sure again if this is live traffic or not. Let's pop back out to our external camera here. We got Oakland International Airport. Add a little bit of throttle to level off at about 2,000 feet. Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I love this setup. This is my go-to setup for general aviation or anything that has anything similar to this. I think it's fantastic. The fact that this yoke goes 180 degrees each direction is awesome in and of itself. Go, add a little bit more power, and then we will nose up trim a little bit. Just a little. And then here's the Coliseum. We'll pass over, and then we'll head over towards the 30 numbers. How do you like IL-2? I fly DCS a lot, but not haven't flown IL-2 in a while. Like a long while. Awesome, man. Yeah, I can't drink, I'm flying. I wish. That'd be nice. And we've got Alameda right over here. Mythbusters was actually filmed over here at the Alameda airstrip. It's no longer in service as an airport. I think it was a naval facility, but I could be wrong. Wouldn't be the first time. So they'll generally have you just kind of turn this way. At this point you switch to Tower, Oakland Tower, and just let them know where you are. And then they'll usually have you descend down to about 1,400 feet as you cross over the numbers. And then while you're flying this way, you've got planes landing under you. It's a really cool Really cool experience if you haven't done it. Oops, not that. Not that. There we go. And then this is great because you're out of the way of landing traffic. Obviously, they're landing right underneath where you are, so you're not a factor for them, and they're not a factor for you. And then what we'll do is we'll head towards the San Mateo Bridge, the midspan of the San Mateo Bridge. Yeah, this is definitely not live traffic. I have no idea where all these planes are coming from. Yeah, we're descending slowly. We're going to go ahead and reduce our throttle just a bit. See if we can get down to 1,400 feet. At this point, that's where they want you. And we'll turn a little bit to the south towards the San Mateo Bridge, which you can probably just barely make out right here. We'll see if they fixed it in this world update that they just put out. It usually just kind of disappears into the water over here, where it should actually come up out of the water and kind of arc over to the side. So this is the bridge right here. I believe it just kind of stays flat. It should actually come up out of the water and then come back down. All right, there's 1,400 feet. We'll increase our throttle just a bit and head towards the midspan of the San Mateo Bridge. And this keeps us out of the Bravo airspace, which is above us. Pop that up if you want to take a look at some of the airspace. We're in the center part of Oakland's airspace, and we're heading out towards this Bravo shelf. Let's see if I can highlight it. Yeah, we're heading underneath that. The floor of that is 2,100 feet, which we are below, and then we're heading down to this smaller one down here, which the floor is 1,500 feet. So we have to stay below 1,500 feet when we're in that airspace. Or when we're under that airspace, I should say. And of course we've got our trusty quadrant over here. Let's take a look to the right. Yeah, right at about this point here, as soon as it turns, the bridge goes up about 200 feet and then comes back down. I love it, Steve. I think this is, like, if you do a lot of general aviation flying, or if you want a setup that's a little bit more, I don't want to say a little bit more real world, but a little bit more something that we would be flying in the real world, this is an excellent setup. Nice and responsive, very smooth, no detent in the middle, so you're not fighting that while you're landing. You are fighting the sim, of course, if the sim sucks, but quite a pleasure to be virtually flying with this. All the switches and everything that you need, plenty of them. And again, quite a few axes over here as well. Go ahead and turn a little bit here to the west. We'll fly over San Carlos, Airport, which if you know the finer points of flying, he flies out of San Carlos. Great guy, Jason Miller. Absolutely love him. Throttle Quadrant is awesome, Robert. I love this thing. The flaps is it's not a you know how some planes have the I don't even know what to call it. It's like the long thing that you would just move it like a notch at a time. It's not that. This is just a momentary switch, but it's instantaneous. You'll notice my flaps just went down in game. Same thing. If I hit it again, it goes down to the next notch, and then flipping it up works excellent. Again, these are all, there's 6 axes here on the actual, or actually 7 axes on the throttle itself, and these are all independently bindable, so you can set the game up to use it however you want. If you want your throttle over here on the far left, you can put it there, and your mixture all the way here on the far right. Cool. These are really easy to pop off and swap off the different handles if you want to. So if I wanted to set up like this, I could just do that. Now it doesn't know that I've moved the prop handle over to the far right. I'd have to rebind that in the game. However, if this is how you wanted to set up, you absolutely could set it up this way. Response is excellent, pretty much instantaneous. There's a little bit of a lag in Microsoft Flight Simulator, but I have the same lag when I'm using my Warthog, so I don't think that that's the joystick's fault. I think it's just a game issue. Let's go ahead and continue this direction. San Carlos is just a little bit to our left. Hey Jessica, I'm right over San Carlos, so we're at South Bay. Absolutely, Steve. I think it would be a great choice for the P-38. I can go ahead and get the chat up so you guys can see it as well. Yeah, Steve, for sure, 100%. I fly DCS. The planes that I fly all have joysticks, so I don't have to. I've never used a yoke in any of the combat sims, but that would definitely be something interesting to try. This one, I think, would be excellent for any of those uses. Got San Carlos right below us. Landed here before. Really fun little airport. Actually, the first place I flew as soon as I got my pilot certificate was San Carlos, because I wanted to do this exact flight, a bay tour up next to San Francisco. And I was a little bit curious about how to request that from air traffic control. So I landed at San Carlos first. I had a friend who lived there. Actually, I think he moved back there again, and had a little chat with him about how to request a clearance from NorCal to go do a bay tour. And then Robert, the other thing I was saying is I don't know if you watched from the beginning or if you joined a little bit later, but the trim tab is awesome. It's not an axis. It doesn't have an end on either direction. It's actually a momentary input. I'll switch back to the picture-in-picture this. The trim tab over here, the trim wheel, it's a momentary input, so you can just keep spinning it, and you'll notice the plane is now trimmed to go up, or you can just go all the way as far this way as you want to go. Like, it'll just keep going. It's actually really sweet. Makes it a lot more sense. I know some people were kind of interested in this being analog, and it's not. It's digital, but the amount of input that it puts in is enough to where it feels like it is an analog input, even though it's not. Go ahead and add some power here. And we'll trim this out just for a slight climb. We want to get over this mountain here and go over to Half Moon Bay. Shall we do a touch and go at Half Moon Bay? I think we could do that. Let's go ahead and switch back into our cockpit camera. climb up to about 2,200 feet. I believe this is Highway 280 here, going off into the south, down towards San Jose. There's 2,200. We'll pull back our throttle a bit, level off. So, San Francisco International is over here. This is all Palo Alto. I believe you can see the Stanford campus, but not 100% sure where that is. And I'm sorry, Palo Alto's further south. This is all San Mateo. We got Half Moon Bay right over here. I have not used Track IR. I'm waiting for the VR release. I fly with an index in DCS, and the VR release is supposed to be December 22nd. So I'm looking forward to that, and as such, I have not used Track IR. Now I do have Free Track, which is, I think it's called Smooth Track on my phone. That's the app name, and then the actual API that it plugs into on the computer is called Free Track or Open Track. I think it's Open Track, and that works really great in DCS. I haven't tried it in Flight Simulator yet. Works really well, and it just uses your phone camera to pick up where you're looking, and then translates it very accurately in DCS. Go ahead and pull our throttle back a little bit. Start our descent into Half Moon Bay. So as I'm flying, I'm keeping an eye on my vertical speed indicator here. See, I'm descending at about 500 feet a minute, and that's what I'm going to try and maintain using trim, and in this case power. My power setting is pretty much holding it. A little bit of downward trim, maintain our speed. No, Steve, the in a Cessna, I'll actually show you this. Let's do an external view. See this little thing right here? Let's see if we can zoom in a bit. This little cutout here in the tail is actually the trim tab. And when you move the trim wheel up or down, it affects this up or down. Now, the way that works is as the airflow is coming up over the tail here, if this is pointing up into the wind, it'll actually add a little bit of force to push the stabilator tail elevator down a little bit, and vice versa. If it's pointing down, it'll actually work to move the elevator up a little bit. So a very, very ingenious solution for trimming an airplane without having to move the actual surface. It's pretty neat. Alright, so we got Half Moon Bay over here. Where are we? We're about 1,700 feet. We're going to get down to about, I guess, 1,000. It's right at sea level. Sure, Steve, and I honestly think that there's two different perspectives on it. Yeah, definitely. If I'm in VR, it's for a particular use, and I know that I lose a little bit of visual quality when I'm in VR, so that it'll run faster, or run smoother, I should say. And then if I'm looking to do something like this, where I'm actually broadcasting and want the quality, I won't use Track IR. I actually gave my Track IR setup away to a friend who didn't have any kind of head tracking, and VR works really well for me. So I have used, again, like I said, that Smooth Track application, which works just as good as Track IR, but it's just as easy for me to use the mouse to look around. The coolie hat in Flight Simulator moves you 90 degrees. I think you can set it up to move incrementally, but that works well enough for me. So that's what I use. I use a combination of that and just kind of like browsing around. So there we go. We're on a little bit of a long final. We're at about 1,200 feet. That's actually probably going to work for me. So I'm just going to go ahead and stay where I'm at. And just kind of start turning in. Half Moon Bay traffic, Cessna 733 Bravo Echo is turning long final Runway 30, Half Moon Bay. Let me double check that it is 30. Yes, it is 30. We're a little high, so I'm going to pull the power back and get our descent going a little bit faster. Screen on the left side of the yoke. This bad boy, I've got 4-flight up, so it's my iPad. And if I switch over to 4-flight, this is what I'm seeing. So I can actually, in the real world, I use this to navigate and plan all of my flights and everything. In Flight Simulator, it works okay. You'll notice that there's a plane there, SkyWest plane flying at 11,000 feet above me. And it's not showing up in game, so you can also see some of the bugs. Alright, so we're here. We'll go ahead and lower a couple of notches of flaps. And Half Moon Bay traffic, Cessna 733 Bravo Echo is on short final runway 30, Half Moon Bay. You'll notice those 2 lights over to the left-hand side of the runway. They're both white. That's telling me that I'm a little bit high. These bad boys right over here. As I get on to the actual glide slope, one will turn red, one will turn white. That means that I'm all right. And then if I get a little bit too low, or the closer I get, eventually they'll both turn red. If you're far out and they both turn red, it kind of a little dark humor means red on red, you're dead. So add power and gain altitude quick. Coming in a little bit fast, but that's all right. We'll pull our throttle idle. We'll kind of level off and bleed our speed. And then we'll get our nose in the air. And gently touch down. There we go. Got our flaps up and full throttle. We'll go ahead and take off again. Nice little touch and go out at Half Moon Bay. 55 knots. Rotate and get back up in the air. And then at this point, I would just say Half Moon Bay traffic, Cessna 733 Bravo Echo is on the upwind, runway 30, departing the area to the north, Half Moon Bay. Now I'm pulling back a little bit on the yoke, so I'm just going to kind of trim nose up a bit. Just kind of reduce my workload, not have to pull back on the yoke. And there we go, nice little climb at 73-ish knots. We're climbing at 1,000 feet a minute, dropping to 500 feet a minute. It'll oscillate a little bit as the plane kind of finds its equilibrium. We're going to climb up to about 1,000 feet and then stay there until we get closer to the Golden Gate Bridge. I'm going to turn a little bit to the north here. Absolutely means firewall the throttle and go around. Get the hell out of Dodge if you are red on red. I'll switch back to this view and take a look. So we got full mixture, full throttle. We're a little high, 1,200 feet. So I'm going to go ahead and reduce the throttle just a bit. So you'll notice that when I'm trying to level off the plane, I'm not necessarily pushing the yoke down first. I'm actually reducing throttle first. That'll keep you at the same airspeed. And then you can make smaller adjustments with the yoke to adjust your speed with your pitch. And then you can do a little bit more management with your throttle to maintain whatever speed you want to stay at. And the trim, of course. What you're really doing is trimming your airspeed, not trimming the... I mean, you are trimming the attitude of the plane, but the attitude of the plane is what's going to hold your airspeed. So here we go, about 100 knots, level, 1,300 feet. I'm pushing down on the yoke So I'm going to go ahead and trim that out just a bit. And there we go. I've never been able to trim a simulator plane as fast as I can with this, which is nice. I mean, this is what it's like when you're flying in a real plane. Just trim it real quick and continue. Pop to our external view here. Take a look at beautiful coastline here. They fixed this. This did not used to look this good. Oh yeah, they fixed this. This looks awesome now. This used to basically be one giant gray beige smear. We got Pacifica over here off the right wing. We've actually got a friend who lives right here. Thanks, Steve. That's awesome. And then this is the California coast. We're going up towards the Golden Gate Bridge, which is over here. It's the inlet to the bay. We've got the Sutro Tower, and I think the Coit Tower is also represented in this game. Give ourselves a little bit of nose down and nose down trim. Trimming is never an exact science, although you can get it pretty dialed in. We'll just kind of fly over and enjoy the coast. And as we move up the coast, we're going towards, or going, I guess, by Pacifica. We just passed. San Bruno's coming up, and San Francisco, downtown San Francisco. Daly City is a little bit south. You can start to see the San Francisco skyline over here, over these hills. The downtown city area, and the Bay Bridge going back over the bay. We just came from the other side of the bay. Go ahead and give ourselves a little bit more nose down trim. So as you trim level, or as you hold the plane level, it's actually going to pick up a little bit of speed. And then the trim, I mean, it's going to pick up a little bit of speed and start nosing up again. So you have to basically continuously trim down until it doesn't nose up anymore. This can actually get pilots in a little bit of trouble if they're focusing more on the trim than actually flying the airplane. Trying to fly by the trim. The best practice is to use the yoke to actually hold what attitude and speed you want, and then trim so that you don't have to put any pressure in. And then that's how you properly trim an aircraft. It's a little bit more difficult in the context of a simulator. These guys tend to be a little bit more finicky, a little bit more analog. Or I should say these are a little bit more digital, whereas in the real world it's a little bit more analog, so smaller inputs are possible, whereas in a simulator they're not. The one thing about this quadrant that I'm not 100% sure I like, you do have an adjustment knob over here on the far right to adjust how hard it is to move the levers, move the throttle levers, or the pitch, the prop pitch, and the mixture, or whatever. Like you can adjust how sticky these are. There's nothing for the trim wheel. So if you're wanting something that's a little bit more true to life, true to like a real plane, this is really easy to spin back and forth. Robert, so the company that makes that 182, Coronado, they make a pretty good 182 for X-Plane, and all they did was port the X-Plane version over to Microsoft Flight Simulator. The issue is it hasn't been fixed. I did buy the 182. I wasn't super impressed with it. I believe they've made some changes to it. However, I haven't opened it up again to try it out since launch. Steve, let's see. On a scale of, let's say, 1 being absolute garbage, War Thunder, let's say, and 10 being super, super awesome, like you feel like you're actually in a plane, I'm going to say Flight Sim is probably somewhere around a 7 to an 8. It really depends on what you're flying. I feel like X-Plane actually feels a little bit more realistic to me. That being said, I've flown X-Plane for a little bit longer than Flight Simulator 2020. I've also gotten used to the nuances in X-Plane, so I know how to counteract things that don't quite work the way that they do in the real world. So there might be a little bit of bias there. If you're talking about avionics, Flight Simulator's avionics are garbage. If you want to go and do like IFR flying and you're trying to use the G1000 that comes with the game, half of the functionality doesn't work. A lot of the approaches are not dialed in correctly. Some airports like Byron, it has an RNAV, GPS approach on runway 30 there, and it doesn't exist in Flight Simulator 2020, so that's kind of annoying. There's a lot of stuff that doesn't quite work if you're looking for an IFR simulator. Ooh, and they definitely updated Golden Gate Park. This was not here before. At least I don't remember it. The windmill and all of this. This is really cool looking. There we go, Sutro Tower, Coit Tower, and then we've got the downtown San Francisco skyline. Here is the Point. They've updated this as well, I believe. This looks really nice. In the real world, if you look out to the west, you can sometimes see the Farallon Islands out there. And then this is the rest of the coast going up. Point Reyes is right there. And of course, the Golden Gate Bridge. Absolutely beautiful sight in reality when you're flying right by it. We're getting a little low, so I'm going to add a little bit of power. Give us some space over the bridge. And then we'll go take a look at the downtown area, the Bay Bridge, and then head back to Livermore. So this is essentially the Bay tour that I do with friends when I'm flying in the real world. I think it's a riot. I have a blast taking people up and flying this route. It's usually the first time that they've seen the Bay from this perspective. At least from this perspective, this close to it, I should say. And it's always a pleasure to share aviation with people. Looks like they may have fixed the Golden Gate a little bit too. We'll see when we get closer. There used to be like a shadow of the bridge. You can kind of see a little bit of a remnant of it right there, where the bridge is kind of now going into the water, and then they know it's a bridge, so they put a satellite imposement over it. Yeah, see, it looks like that's the original texture down there going under the water. So they're just overlaying it with the water, which is fine. It still looks better than it did, although that tree growing out of the middle of the bridge, it's kind of out of place. Alright, and then this should be a tunnel right here. So they haven't quite gotten to this part. But still, not bad. Angel Island over here, and Alcatraz. Robert, I like X-Plane right now if you're looking to do serious simulation. I think, let me put a caveat on that. Serious instrument simulation. If you want to do just general aviation VFR flying, Flight Simulator 2020 is better because you can see all the landmarks, you can see everything, it looks real. I can identify my house from the air in Flight Simulator 2020 where you can't do that in X-Plane. Absolutely, Robert. I would plan my flights ahead of time and then I would fly them in the sim. And that's what I do now for my instrument training as well. I'll actually know where I'm going. I won't fly it in Flight Simulator for instrument because it won't work. But I'll fly those in X-Plane. For my private, yeah, absolutely. I would plan out my flight. I would put a mock flight together and fly it in X-Plane. At the time, Flight Simulator wasn't out. So this was four years ago when I got my private. Or when I was doing the training and then went for my certificate. We've got Alcatraz underneath. And also, before I even went for my certificate, I had been flying simulators for about 15 to 18 years before I went to get my private pilot certificate. So I had a lot of quote-unquote experience with flying before that. And this is the airspace that the Blue Angels fly through. So if you ever come to San Francisco for Fleet Week, you would be sitting somewhere over in this area. Got Crissy Fields over there. There's a couple of other parks in this area as well. Fort Mason is over here. And then the Blue Angels do their whole show right over in this area here. And then they always do that sneak overfly just right over there. So if you're sitting in this area, it's usually right over this building, I believe. And they just come right over and scare the hell out of everybody. It's awesome. Downtown San Francisco, I would not get quite this close to the shoreline if I were flying in the real world. And I'm going to switch over to ForeFlight real quick. And you'll see that we've got our blue here, this outline that I'm kind of covering myself up with. But you can see that shape is the Bravo shelf that we're flying under right now. But this red or magenta on the inside is, I couldn't quite highlight it, but what it is Oakland's airspace. And you kind of want to stay out of that. Got the Transamerica building. Salesforce Tower. I want to show you guys how close they built Salesforce Tower to the freeway. Because this was blowing my mind when I would drive into San Francisco. Look at how close this building is to the freeway. It's literally like the freeway almost hits it. And this is real. This is not a misplaced building. It's actually this close to the bridge. It's crazy. And the building texture doesn't look all that great. Actually, the building is a little bit more rounded in reality, so they're just using, I think, a generic building here for this. However, it is legitimately that close. It's pretty crazy. And I would definitely not be flying like this in the real world. This is not something that the FAA would not be happy with me. All right, we're gonna go full power, go up over the buildings here, and we'll resume the flight as if we did not come in and do this kind of a thing. See the Bay Bridge over here to our right? This is the old span, so you've got an upper deck and a lower deck, so there's actually two sandwich layers here of bridge. Yeah, Robert, thank you. It was a lot of fun putting those together. I actually put those together before I got my pilot certificate, so that was just with Flight Sim experience. I appreciate the kind words. I'm actually planning on redoing that series since it is a little bit dated. The cockpit doesn't look anything like that anymore since they updated it to a 3D model, a 3D cockpit. And then I'm planning on also moving forward and doing a 10 and a bunch of other modules as well. Here we've got Treasure Island, Yerba Buena. This is was a military base. Now I think it's low-income housing. I may be wrong on that. I am a real estate agent, but not out in the city, so I don't really keep up on the market out there. Here's the new span of the Golden Gate Bridge, or the Bay Bridge. You'll notice that it actually splits off into two bridges, and the traffic apparently wants to drive in the water. But it's a pretty cool bridge to drive on. There's our Alameda airport. This is no longer in service. It's where the Mythbusters did all of their testing. So if you saw those truck videos where they were like running a truck into other things, that was the runway that they did that on. What are you flying now, Robert, in DCS World? I assume you're not still flying the Su-25T, but if you are, cool. I love that plane. I jump into it myself every so often. Got the rest of the bay. It's absolutely beautiful out here. This is pretty much what it would look like in real life. And we got San Pablo Bay up here. It's all part of the same body of water. Add a little bit of throttle, start climbing. And then we got Berkeley Marina is over here. And there's a racetrack. Where's the racetrack? I think it's a little bit further north. I think the racetrack is right over here. Yeah, SF libs. I am an SF lib. Sorry, Steve. It's all good. We're nice people. Go ahead and a little bit more throttle, and we'll turn to the east. We'll get over the mountains here. So we got Mount Diablo here in the distance. This is Highway 24 coming up here. It goes into the Caldecott Tunnel, which heads over into Orinda and Lafayette. So now we're at the north part of the bay. Oakland Airport is over there, so you'll notice that we made kind of a loop. We took Oakland, we kind of went that direction over to the San Mateo Bridge, across over the hills on that side, up the coast, over the Golden Gate Bridge, and then we're heading back the way we came. My question to you, Kit, you're asking if the Honeycomb Bravo is a little bit much if you're just trying to supplement your in-person private pilot lessons in a 172. No, I don't think it is. If you don't have the budget for it, you can definitely get something that's a little bit more affordable. The Logitech Quadrant works just fine. The great thing about this is everything is integrated. You got the flap knob here, you've got your any kind of configuration you want over here. If you decide to pursue multi-engine, you can set it up for multi-engine. If you're going to pursue commercial, you can set it up for commercial. You've got an actual trim wheel instead of using a digital input, so it's actually a wheel that you can use to trim your plane, which is incredible. Gear lever. It's got an annunciator panel. The lights aren't working quite yet, but it is planned. And if you're going to be doing any kind of IFR training, you've got all your autopilot stuff here, along with a knob, like an actual spinny knob up here in the top right, for you to be able to set altitudes and things like that. If you have the budget, I would 100% invest in this. It's not going anywhere. It's not going to break. Like, this thing is solid and badass. Same thing with the Honeycomb. However, if you do have to be budget conscious, I mean, it's not super extraordinarily expensive. However, I do understand that, you know, some people want to go a little bit more budget conscious. The Logitech one works great. Yeah, Robert, A10C is awesome. The Su-25 is the Russian equivalent to the A10, yeah. It's supposed to be. And yeah, the module upgrade price for that was $10 for us previous owners, so can't complain with that. And the Su-25 is pretty cool. It's a jet, so it goes a little bit faster than a propeller plane or any of the pistons that you would have flown in World War II. But it's a lot of fun to fly. It's got a lot of weapons that work pretty well. And it's definitely faster than the A10. I really, really enjoy the A10, though. I like the fact that it's a little bit slower. I like the fact that it's a little bit more manual. It almost feels like you're flying a prop plane as far as like the functionality. It's a little bit more, you know, old school. However, it has some of the nicer new amenities like a targeting pod where you can actually find targets on the ground, lock on them, and take them out. Lafayette Reservoir, and right here, really nice hiking trails around this reservoir. If you have not been to the Bay Area, would highly recommend stopping by. Awesome, Thomas. What were you interning for? Yeah, Kit, this isn't like, if you buy this, you'll never have to buy another throttle. Same thing with the yoke. I've owned several yokes, and they've all had terrible issues that I've hated. This is the first one that I bought, and I was like, oh, there's no detent. Oh my gosh, this feels super smooth. Wow, I can turn it 180 degrees in either direction. Like, it feels like a real plane. It's also got all the switches for your lights. You can't probably see it in this, but they're over here. It's also got all your switches for your battery and everything on this side as well, and a little faux key if you wanna use that to start the plane. And of course, it's got like electronic trim if you have a plane that does that. This bad boy over here has got even more knobs that I don't have any of them bound to anything because they're all already on the yoke. But like I was telling people earlier, this has 6 different axes that you can put something onto. So you can actually, and it comes with the handles to make this a multi-engine if you want, a multi-engine general aviation plane. I can pop this guy off and cover that, and it's just the 172 that I'm flying now, just the two axes. I can cover all these. They're basically dust covers just to keep everything kind of sealed if you're not using them. It comes with a commercial setup, so if you're flying Boeings and things like that, or if you plan on moving into flying Boeings, you've got an entire set of knobs to be able to do those. So it's really, really cool. Like, it comes with all this stuff as part of the package. And the throttle levers for the commercial stuff have thrust reverser finger things, and they work. So when you land and you're going to kick on your thrust reversers, you just pull those back and they kick on. I don't fly so much commercial stuff, so this is probably just going to sit for a while, but it's available, and it comes with two of each of these knobs, so that if you want to put together a multi-engine for a private pilot, you know, private pilot multi, you could definitely set that up. You just pull everything off, put the 2 throttles over here, the 2 props, and the 2 mixtures, and you're good to go. If you're planning on moving up to a complex, so you're going to have a gear, you've definitely got the gear knob over here. You've got flaps. You've got autopilot controls. If you have any other kind of knobs that you want to bind, you have them up here. And, of course, the trim wheel. This bad boy is fantastic. Throttle Quadrant is actually a little bit lighter than the yoke. Great question, Robert. I'm going to put the chat back up here as well. You guys can see a little bit of what everybody's been... Well, you guys are all on YouTube, so you guys can all see it, but anybody on Twitch or on Facebook who's watching, you'll get to see the conversation. This is all Highway 680 right here, leading back up over to Dublin, and then Livermore Airport is going to be right over in this direction. And let's see, where are we? We are Walnut Creek, so here is Alamo. So this must be Livermore Road. So this is the Safeway Shopping Center in Alamo. If you guys have been to Alamo, that's what this looks like. My friend Matthew Kavanaugh's family used to own a little liquor store right there called Kavanaugh Liquors. And then the Brass Bear is a little delicatessen right there. Absolutely delicious sandwiches. And then this back here you can see kind of going through, that's the Iron Horse Trail. So if you've ever been here and kind of run on the trails in this area, that's what that little strip is. It's a beautiful cycling trail. Goes all the way to Livermore. And fantastic. San Ramon Valley High School, which is where I went to school, is right over there. You can see the football field, the baseball field, the actual school area is in this direction. And then my old house where I grew up is... There's the park. It's one of these houses right here. A little bit too many trees in this area. But here's El Pintado Road, which is the exit. And then you would head over this direction, and then my house, my old house when I was a really little kid, would probably be like right in there. And so I lived pretty close to school, used to ride my bike. It was good fun. And then right under the shadow of Mount Diablo. Awesome mountain. I have ridden my bike up it a couple of times. That's quite the workout. And there's Livermore Airport. You can see the tower beacon there. White and then green and then white. That's alternating tower. Usually you're not going to see those during the day. You'll see them more at night. But definitely not going to complain about that. We'll switch there. We'll head back to our picture-in-picture view so you guys can see the yoke or the whole setup while I'm landing. Switch back to the cockpit view. We got the airport over here off our left. And what we're going to be doing is following the highway and then turning into our downwind for runway 25 right. We're at just about 3,000 feet here, so I'm actually going to pull back my throttle just a bit. And we'll descend down to about 2,000 feet, so we'll lose about 1,000 feet. And then once we're lining up on our downwind, we'll descend again to 1,400 feet. That's pattern altitude at Livermore. The field elevation is 399 feet, 398 feet. Depends on the day. Depends on what part of the runway they measured from. Reduce our throttle just a little bit more. Robert, I do flight sims. I try and stream weekly. So I have a Friday night flights. That's usually when I do these flights. It's not necessarily going to always be Flight Simulator. The last couple have been DCS. And since I just got the Bravo Throttle Quadrant, I figured I'd do a little flight, answering questions about it, showing it in action, things of that nature. And then I'm planning on also posting produced videos on Tuesdays. For Tutorial Tuesdays. So that's something that I'm planning on introducing back into my regular posting schedule. And then I'm sure you guys have seen my cook-along lives on Sunday. Map for CVG. You mean like the actual airport? CVG? KCVG? The map for this, Steve, is the entire planet. So, yes, it does. Let me do this. I'll go ahead and add a browser input. Add existing. I think this is the chat. Perfect. That way you guys can see what everyone's talking about as well as what's going on in the sim. Here we go. Getting to about 2,000 feet. We'll add a little bit of power back. And use that power to level off as we turn onto our downwind. Very long downwind for runway 25 at Livermore. You can see that blinking green and white light right over here. And we're going to line up parallel to that. I know that the runways are pointing this direction. Runway 25 is pointing 250 on the magnetic compass, so I can actually use the compass to kind of help guide where I line up. I'm actually going to level out just a little bit before that. That's about 250. So that's where my runway is going to be pointing. Runway numbers are always lined up with the magnetic compass direction for the runway. Yes, Steve, there absolutely is a CVG airport. I'll jump over there real quick once I land. Getting a little closer to the airport. Don't want to have a huge wide pattern. And we're going to start descending a little bit. I want to get down to about 1,400 feet by the time we get a beam in the numbers. Well, actually, by the time we get to the upwind part of the runway. Pattern altitude 1,400 feet. Now, see, the cool thing is in the real world, all of these little paths are here, so I know I have a visual reference of where I want to line up, and it works. No, Robert, I'm not. I think it's what, 1 o'clock in the game. It's 7:46 local time. So I've got the time set up a little bit earlier in the day so you guys can see what I'm actually doing. And as far as the weather is clear, but the game was reporting that it was cloudy. So rather than have it be bad, I decided just to make it a lightly cloudy day. All right, so we're at about 1,600 feet, a little high, but that's not a problem. Got a bunch of housing developments over here. Golf course, that's Canyon Lakes Golf Course, I believe. And then we're descending slightly, and then over to our right, we are just about starting to see the runway. Runway 7 left and 7 right. 7 right's over here. And we're just at about 1,400 feet. Perfect. So what I'm going to do is actually reduce my throttle just a bit, down to about 2,000 RPM. And then rather than letting the plane descend, I'm actually just going to pick the nose up, level it off, and then trim level. And what that's going to do is actually slow the plane down for me. A little too much trim there. There we go. We're about halfway down the runway, which is great. I have no idea where that came from. So we're right at about 80. We're going to go ahead and drop a notch of flaps. We'll take a look over. We're a little bit past the beam the numbers, which is fine. We're going to reduce our throttle just a bit, down to about 1,700. We're going to start our descent into the runway. We'll take a look over. And we'll start our turn. And then this little bridge, this little road, and there's a little bridge that goes over the freeway is what we're looking for. Here's our runway that we're going to line up with. Go ahead and put down another notch of flaps. Reduce our throttle just a bit. We'll start our turn on to final. We're just a little bit high, but we're right on the edge, and we overshot the runway. Somebody in the real world will get mad at us. There we go.
Runway 25 left.
Last notch of flaps. Getting a little slow here, so I'm going to go ahead and increase my throttle just a bit. want to maintain about 65 knots. Looking good. And we can reduce our throttle to idle. And now we'll just come down and transition to our landing configuration. Nose up. There we go. Get our flaps up. And we'll just keep rolling to the next taxiway. No reason to push it, skid the plane out. We'll just wait till we get to our next exit. Here we go. And we'll pull off outside of the runway and pause and say, get our mixture set. Everything is set here. We'll get our trim set for takeoff, which I don't think matters because when we reset, it'll just be right about there. Cool. So let's jump over to CVG. I'll give you a quick look at what that looks like. Let's go to, where are we going? I guess I gotta go and start over again. Cool. Let's go back to the main menu. Continue. Nice, Robert. That's awesome. I have not flown on the East Coast yet. I would like to go fly over there. All right, let's go take a look at the world map. Select our airport, CVG, Cincinnati. So let's go ahead and we'll just start on the runway. We'll take off real quick. So if I keep zooming out, you're gonna notice that we can see the entire globe, and you can spin it around and pick somewhere that you want to fly and go flying. So this is very similar to the older flight simulator games. I'm not sure if you've had a chance to play those, Steve, but yeah, the entire world is modeled, so it's pretty thorough. Let's go ahead and change the time to about, say, 11:30, 11:50. That's fine. In the morning, we'll click fly. We'll set that full mixture in case it starts with the engine running. And we'll give it a second to finish loading here. But yeah, guys, if you guys are thinking about grabbing the Bravo Throttle Quadrant, I highly recommend it. I think it's fantastic. The Yoke and the Throttle are probably the best peripherals I've purchased in a while. And then I'm also using them with the Thrustmaster TPR, which I reviewed on my channel earlier this year, and it's held up very well. It's fantastic. I don't have any complaints about it. I don't know how. I know a couple people posted. Jesus Christ, stop. I know that a lot of people have posted that. Not a lot of people. I know that a few people have posted that they've broken it. I have no idea how they've broken it. This thing is a beast. The rudder pedals are insane. They're built very well. All right, let's jump back over to here. And you guys can see this bad boy. We're gonna go full throttle. Kick off the parking brake. I said, kick off the parking brake. And we'll go ahead and take a look at what's over here in Cincinnati. My my grandfather actually lives in Cincinnati, Steve, so kind of fun that you brought it up. Airspeed's alive. 55. We'll rotate. And we're just gonna... Oh, that's fun. If you move your mouse out of the window, apparently you lose all control in the actual sim. That's interesting. Cool. Let's go ahead and switch to external. Oh, it gave us a notch of flaps. I don't know why. Go ahead and trim ourselves to about 75 knots. And then I'll zoom this out a bit and then start kind of looking around. So here is CVG. Again, we're not using real weather. I believe this is still set up from what we were using in the Bay Area, so lightly cloudy. And then I guess we'll just follow the highway here. I believe we're turning north. I believe this is the river here. Now, when I stayed in this area to visit my grandfather, I was on the south side of the river. I believe it's a state border, isn't it? Like the river is actually the border, or it's right there. I was in one state, actually staying in one state and visiting my grandfather on the other. It's kind of cool, not gonna lie. I think the south side of the river is Kentucky, and the north side is Ohio. If I remember correctly. My geography is not the best for the East Coast, though. And I think Cincinnati's over this direction, so let's go take a look. My hotel was like right on the water, and if that's Cincinnati, I was probably right there, but we'll see when we get over there. Here's the airport from the air. Not sure if this is bringing back memories or anything. Oh yeah, Robert, absolutely. Night's not bad, but the lights are a little bit overblown. Like they're way too bright, and the bloom is a little bit too big. Not bad, and they're constantly adjusting it, so they will get it right. And it still looks fantastic. I mean, you can kind of tell with these lights here, the approach lighting. These approach lights are huge, right? I mean, no approach light is that big when you're looking at it in the real world. Same thing with the night lighting. They're not that gigantic in the real world. Also, some of the things like we have some windmill farms in the Altamont Pass over by Livermore, and there's a couple of windmills out there. So you see the red lights at night. It's a nice little sampling of nice little scattering of red windmill lights over in the hills. In this game, it almost turns the entire hills red because there's so many lights, and there aren't that many windmills there in the real world. So a couple of things that stand out a little bit more at night that you wouldn't normally notice, but all in all, it's still not bad. Yeah, so here are the bridges. So I think my hotel was like right there. I think it was a Doubletree Suites. Doubletree Inn? Something like that. Don't remember, it's been a while. But let's go take a look. We're 4,000 feet. I'll go ahead and... Actually, let's just descend. There's no reason to be this high in a simulator. We'll just pull the power and glide. And if you're looking at the vertical speed down here, you'll notice that even without the engine on, we're maintaining about 90 knots. There's 90, there's 100. And we're straight and level. Well, level, I guess, is a state of mind. We are descending, but it's not like we're falling out of the sky. We have plenty of time, plenty of space. We can kind of plan where we would land if this were an actual engine out. In this case, I might pick a stretch of highway, depending on how busy it was, or start looking for a field. Yeah, maybe these parks over here. It looks like a really nice area to maybe set down. But see, this is what I mean when I say Flight Simulator 2020 is awesome for VFR. Like, you can see all of these little landmarks. You can see all of the little things that are... all the details in this area. You're not going to get this in X-Plane yet. I'm sure that they're working on a solution. However, at the moment, you're not going to get this level of detail in any other flight simulator that I know of. Accurate detail, I should say. Not just detail. You're not going to get the super accurate detail in any other sim. And I definitely have to commend them for that. There are a few little things, like, I mean, nuances. The trees are gigantic. No, they don't look like this. Or at least the ones in the Bay Area don't look as big as they did when we were flying around. There is that many of them, they're just not that big. Same thing here. I assume that most of the trees are not the size of a house, right? I'm assuming they're a little bit smaller than that. But the sheer level of detail, the roads, the freeways all being accurate, seeing my running trail, my cycling trail in Alamo and in Danville, that's pretty incredible. Let's see. I think I was right here. I think this is where my hotel was. Because I remember the bridges, and I know there's a Joe's Crab Shack somewhere over here. Because I walked to it. I think I was in this hotel right here. Or the smaller one. Or is that the Joe's Crab Shack? No, the Crab Shack was further up. I honestly don't remember. Might have been this one. Right next to the bridge. Or one of these two. It was here. It was one of these three. I think it was the one here in the middle. And then Joe's Crab Shack is like past this bridge and in between, I think. But yeah, there's the stadium. Go ahead and add some power so we don't stall. I walked this whole boardwalk. A lot of fun. We actually went to a game at the stadium. It was awesome. Really cool. We saw a baseball game. I've actually never been to a football game. But one of the things I like to do... So I guess we were at that stadium, not the other one. One of the things I like to do when I go to a new city is basically walk the whole thing if I can. Do some sightseeing, take some pretty cool pictures. And then, let's see, one of these is the People Bridge and one of these is the Car Bridge. I think this is the People Bridge. And then I think Joe's Crab Shack is here. Or it wasn't on the water. Not like on the water. I think it was that. Right there. I think. No. Because I remember that street. I think it's that, yeah, I think it's that green one right there. I don't remember. It's been a while. Several years. Brent Spence Bridge, huh? Oh, and let's see. Let's go this way. Those of you who have a private pilot certificate or actually do any kind of flying, Clermont County Airport, which you may be familiar with because it's where Sporty's flight school is out of, is over here to the west. Or, I'm sorry, the east. And there's another airport here, Cincinnati Municipal, which we're going to fly over. And then past that, we'll get to Sporty's Airport, which is Clermont County. Yeah, Steve, I remember when I was in the area thinking it was kind of strange that they had two stadiums because here we have San Francisco, but they'll switch it over to, well, I guess they don't do that anymore. Oakland they do, but, well, I guess they don't do that at Oakland anymore because the Oakland Raiders are now in Las Vegas. But what they would do is they would convert it. So it would be a baseball stadium, and then they'd convert it to a football stadium, and that's what I grew up being used to. So when I came out to Cincinnati, and I saw that there were legit two stadiums right next to each other, I was like, that's really interesting. Not a bad thing, not a good thing. I mean, I just thought it was kind of neat. Here's Cincinnati Municipal. When I came out to visit my grandfather, I was actually thinking about renting a plane and taking him flying. He's a huge photography nut, and so I was gonna take him up and let him do some photography. Now, why is there a tower light out in the middle of nowhere? That's got to be an error. Didn't end up working out. The weather was not the greatest for flying, or at least the forecast wasn't. It actually ended up being some pretty good days, but on top of that, the rates were kind of bad, and Clermont County is quite a ways away from where we were going to be, so didn't end up working out. That is so strange that they've got a tower light out in the middle of nowhere. And I know it's a tower light because it's going white then green. That's what the tower beacons look like. Interesting. Alright, so we're at about 3,000 feet. I'll pull back my throttle and level off. We'll be descending here in a little bit when we get to India 69. Nice. Which is the Sporty's field. So I did my private ground school through Sporty's, and it was alright. But there was a lot that they didn't really convey that well. I wouldn't not recommend it. I mean, it was fine. However, for my instrument training, I've been using M0A, and say what you will about Jason Shepard, if you don't like his voice or think he's annoying or whatever, his ground school is really, really well made, and he's actually just about to update it too, so looking forward to some of the updates. But I feel like I'm getting a better well-rounded education through that than what Sporty's offered. Alright, so India 69 should be right over in this direction. Looks like it's an untowered field. But they do have services. Or if it's towered, I can't see the beacon yet. Yeah, just Unicom. We'll be entering a left base. for runway 4. I did not have a Skyline chili. No, I wasn't recommended Skyline chili till after I got back. When I got back, I had a friend who used to live out there say, hey, you should have gotten that. And I was like, well, I didn't know it existed, so. Let's do this. We're going to pop back into the cockpit. We're going to be going 040 for that runway. It's going to be about there. And this is not conditions I would want to be flying in VFR because I'm in clouds or near enough in clouds. And there is India 69. Go ahead and start kind of turning that direction. We're way far out for a base, I mean, to be perfectly honest with you. Oh yeah, and they wanted to do a checkout, an actual plane checkout before you. Obviously, anywhere is going to want to do a flight checkout, but the flight checkout plus the rental plus the weather being kind of weird, it would have been too expensive, especially for if I had to cancel the flight, and just didn't end up working out. All right. See if we can get through this cloud here. No gold star either. Sorry, Steve. I was only there for 4 days, and we were basically celebrating my grandfather's 90th birthday, I think, or 89th birthday. So, he had a particular set of things that, or my mom had a particular set of things that we wanted to do, and so we kind of stuck to that. I took a Thursday, Friday off from work, flew out, and then spent the weekend and flew back on Sunday. So there's Clermont County. We are a little bit high, so what we're going to do is we're going to slip the plane in and go ahead and align up with the runway. I've got my throttle to idle, and we'll go ahead and turn in. And I'm going to go full left rudder and then counter it with right aileron. And what that's going to do is basically the plane is going to essentially fall out of the sky, controlled.
Final runway 04.
And then right before we get to the runway, we'll level off, dump our flaps, and see if we can land. Wouldn't recommend this in the real world.
Sync rate.
Thank you. Level off. There we go. Going way too fast for landing. We might have to just do a go around. Yeah. Let's go full throttle. Oh well, it was a nice attempt. We'll start our left crosswind. You'll notice some wonky textures and elevation over here. They haven't gotten everything right, but for the most part, it looks fantastic. There we go. Take a look at our airport. And we'll start our left downwind turn. Reduce our throttle. There's the runway. Absolutely. Absolutely, Robert. No drag chute. Sometimes I wish, though. That'd be kind of fun. Give everybody whiplash as you're coming in. However, you know, didn't look right. I went around. Do the same thing in the real world. There's no reason to land. If you're not out of fuel and you don't have to land, go around if it doesn't look right. Alright, wait till the runway is about at our 45 behind us, and then we'll start our turn to our left base, and then we'll come in for a nice smooth landing. And from here, we'll reduce our throttle down to about 1700, start our descent. We'll go a notch of flaps once our airspeed gets to where I want it. We want it to be about 110 for our first notch. Alright, about there. One notch of flaps. Take a look, there's the runway. We can probably start our final turn as well. Go down to about 1700 RPM. Think we overshot? Yeah, we did. It's really hard to find or to gauge where you are in the pattern in a simulator when you don't have head tracking on. That's why I like VR a lot. Hey Robert, good to see you. Have a great night, and come tune in on Sunday if you want to do some cooking. I always do a cook along live on Sunday. It's kind of my pandemic thing. Keep everybody together. Good to see you again. Talk to you soon, man. A little high, which is fine because we're going to be moderating our airspeed and our pitch. A little low. This is fine. I'm actually going to aim at the front of the threshold so I land a little bit beyond it. We'll go idle, and then we will level ourselves out. And we'll just do a nice little touchdown here. A little left to center line, but not too bad. Flaps up. And we'll just roll it out. We'll do this, get our trim back. We'll head to the end of the runway. And then we will exit. All right. Awesome, everybody. Well, thanks for joining me for this live stream for Flight Simulator 2020 and the Bravo Throttle Quadrant. Hopefully it was entertaining. Hopefully you guys got some questions answered. You got to take a little bit of a look at this bad boy in action, which is pretty much what I wanted to demo. So let's see, which one do I want? That one, a little bit bigger. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. Again, Sunday nights I do a cook along live, 4:30 Pacific time in the afternoon, and for those of you on the East Coast, that's 7:30 usually. So try and gauge it so that most people can join if they want to. And I think we have a taxi sign in the middle of the taxiway. Kind of interesting. Otherwise, keep an eye out for the Tutorial Tuesdays that are coming out soon. Yeah, we're gonna try and go around this bad boy. Huh. Alright, so this airport needs a little bit of work. Keep an eye out for Tutorial Tuesdays coming to my channel. Probably early next year, first of the year, right after the first of the year, we'll start going back through some DCS stuff.